The farmer's market director held up Lily Nakamura's jar like it was evidence in a trial. "Miss Nakamura, you're charging $45 for 8 ounces of honey. People are complaining. This isn't New York City." Lily, 26 years old, said nothing. Behind the director, her table was empty, 12 jars sold before 9 a.m., a line of customers still waiting, angry they'd missed it. The director set the jar down harder than necessary. "I'm asking you to lower your prices. It's making other vendors look bad." Lily looked at the jar. Dark amber honey, almost black. Buckwheat honey from the bees everyone said were diseased and dying. "No, ma'am." 14 weeks earlier, the auction listing was 2 lines on a county liquidation website. 12 commercial beehives, abandoned, Ridge County Apiary Site 2847. Minimum bid $200, equipment as is, buyer responsible for removal. Lily sat in the public library in Fresno, California, on March 3, 2024, reading those lines over and over. She had $247 in her checking account. Her car, a 2003 Honda Civic with a cracked windshield, was parked outside with everything she owned in the back seat. She'd been sleeping in that car for 6 days, since the restaurant where she'd worked as a prep cook closed without warning, taking her last paycheck with it. She had a degree in environmental science from UC Davis, $87,000 in student loans, and a grandfather who'd kept bees in his backyard in Sacramento until he died when she was 19. She remembered his hands, steady and unhurried, working the frames. His voice, "Bees are honest. They don't pretend. If you care for them right, they'll care for you back." He'd left her his beekeeping journals, 7 spiral notebooks filled with observations, techniques, records of every hive inspection from 1987 to 2016. She'd kept them in a plastic storage bin her whole adult life, moving them from apartment to apartment, never opening them. The bin was in her back seat now. She placed a bid, $200. No one countered. At 11:47 a.m., the auction closed. The hives were hers. The county clerk's office was in a building that smelled like floor wax and old files. The woman behind the counter found the paperwork. "You're claiming lot 2847? The bee equipment?" "Yes, ma'am. You know these hives were abandoned after the owner died? They've been sitting 18 months. The county AG inspector condemned the site. Disease issues, possible pesticide exposure. We're selling them for salvage value only." Lily signed the papers with a pen that skipped. "I understand. You'll need to remove everything within 30 days or the equipment becomes county property again." The clerk paused. "Honey, can I ask, do you know anything about bees?" "My grandfather was a beekeeper." The clerk's expression softened slightly. "Good luck, then. You'll need it." The apiary site was 40 minutes east, in the foothills where the Central Valley started climbing toward the Sierra Nevada. Property owner, Thomas Hartwell Estate. The man had kept bees commercially, selling to almond growers for pollination services. When he died in September 2022, his family wanted nothing to do with the operation. The hive sat unattended through winter, spring, summer. By the time the county took possession, everyone assumed the bees were dead. Lily found the location on April 8th, a clearing surrounded by oak and manzanita, the hives arranged in 3 rows. White boxes weathered gray, lids askew, weeds growing waist-high. She parked and sat for a long moment, watching. Then she saw movement, a bee landing on a wildflower near the fence line. Another, a third. She got out carefully, approached slowly. At the first hive, she heard it, the hum. Faint, but alive. She pressed her hand against the wood. Warmth. They survived. That night, parked at a rest area, she opened her grandfather's journals by dome light. His first entry, January 1987, starting 3 hives today. Everyone says I'm too old to begin. I'm 62. I say the bees don't care about age, only attention and respect. She read through. Winter notes, spring buildup, summer honey flows, fall preparations. His handwriting grew shakier in later years, but his observations stayed sharp. In the 2014 journal, he'd written about rescuing collapsed hives, bees weakened by disease or starvation. Don't feed them sugar water immediately. Their systems are compromised. Start with a 1:1 syrup with thyme and chamomile tea. Support, don't shock. Bees recover if you give them time and the right help. Below that, recipes. Immune-supporting feed supplements, essential oil treatments for mites, techniques for requeening weak colonies. She drove to a farm supply store the next morning, spent $83 on sugar, chamomile, thyme, basic tools, and a used bee suit that smelled like diesel. That left her $164 total. The Hartwell family's nearest neighbor was a woman named Constance Porter who raised goats on 12 acres. She came to the fence line while Lily was unloading equipment. "You're the one who bought the dead hives?" "Yes, ma'am." "They're not dead," Lily said. "Just struggling." Constance snorted. "Tom Hartwell was my neighbor for 30 years. Good man, decent beekeeper. But those hives got mites, got robbed by other colonies, got poisoned by someone's crop spray. You're throwing money away." Other neighbors appeared over the next week like they were watching a train wreck in slow motion. Dale Mercer, almond grower, stopped his truck. "You know colony collapse is a real thing? Bees are dying everywhere. You can't save them with hope." Lily said nothing, just kept working. She opened the first hive on April 12th. The colony was weak, maybe 2,000 bees when there should be 40,000. But the queen was alive, laying. Lily mixed feed following her grandfather's notes, placed it carefully, closed the hive gently. By May, she'd assessed all 12 hives. 4 were dead, empty comb and scattered bodies. 8 were alive but fragile. She combined 3 into 1, making 5 functioning colonies. And she noticed something. The bees were working buckwheat. Lily spotted it on May 18th while walking the property edges, a 5-acre patch of wild buckwheat in bloom, pink-white flowers covering a hillside the neighbors used for nothing. Buckwheat honey was rare, dark, strong-flavored. Her grandfather had written about it once. Buckwheat fetches premium prices. Most beekeepers won't touch it. Too much work, too different. That's why it's valuable. She moved 3 hives closer to the patch, following guidance from the 2003 journal about forage positioning. The neighbors came to watch like she was performance art. Constance brought 2 friends, both women in their 60s. They stood at the fence line while Lily worked. "She's rearranging them," one said. "Like that matters." "Bless her heart," the other replied. "She doesn't know what she doesn't know." Dale Mercer stopped by again on May 24th, this time with his brother and a man who introduced himself as Frank Chun, local honey producer. Frank walked the property line, studying the hives. "You're trying to run a commercial operation?" "Just trying to keep them alive," Lily said. "Commercial beekeeping is cutthroat. Pollination contracts, regulations, disease management. And the honey market is flooded with cheap imports. Unless you've got connections, you can't compete." "I'm not trying to compete." Frank shook his head. "Then you're just wasting time." But the bees built up. Slowly. Lily fed them through late May, treated for mites using essential oil methods from her grandfather's notes. Methods the internet said were unproven, but her grandfather swore by. She requeened 2 weak hives using queens she couldn't afford, bought on a credit card she'd promised herself she'd never use again. $340 charged. Her stomach hurt every time she thought about it. By mid-June, the buckwheat flow was heavy. The bees worked sunrise to sunset. Lily inspected weekly, watching the frames fill, dark honey, thick and mineral-rich. Her grandfather's journal from 1999 had notes about buckwheat, needs longer extraction time, doesn't spin out easy, worth it. On June 29th, she pulled the first honey frames. She had no extraction equipment. She'd been researching, pricing. A basic extractor cost $400 used. She couldn't afford it. Instead, she followed a method her grandfather described in 2001. Crush and strain. Manual, labor-intensive, primitive. She worked by lantern light in a rented storage unit in town. $60 a month she could barely spare. Crushing comb by hand. Straining the honey through cheesecloth. Her hands cramped. Her back screamed. The honey dripped slow, dark, smelling like earth and molasses and something wild. It took 11 hours to process 22 pounds. She jarred it in 8-ounce mason jars, handwritten labels. Ridge County buckwheat honey, single apiary, spring 2024. Then she sat on the concrete floor, exhausted, staring at the jars, and realized she had no idea how to sell them. The farmer's market application took 3 days to get approved. They had an opening for July 13th. Vendor fee, $35. She paid it and had $47 left in her account. She researched buckwheat honey prices. Online, it ranged from $18 to $65 per pound depending on the producer, The story, the market. Her grandfather's 2004 journal had a note. Price for quality. People who understand will pay. People who don't aren't your customers. She set her price at $45 for 8 ounces. It felt insane. The market was in downtown Ridge County, a small town that served the foothill communities. Lily set up at 6 a.m. A folding table borrowed from the storage unit office, a tablecloth she'd owned since college, her jars arranged in 2 rows. 36 jars total. Everything she produced. The other vendors eyed her setup. A woman selling lavender products 2 tables down whispered something to a man selling almonds. They both looked at Lily's price signs and smirked. At 7 a.m., the market opened to a trickle of customers. People walked past, glanced, kept moving. An older man stopped, picked up a jar, saw the price, and set it down. Without a word, Lily's chest tightened. She'd been stupid, overconfident. She'd priced herself out of reality. Then, at 7:23 a.m., a woman in her 50s stopped. She picked up a jar, held it to the light, read the label carefully. Buckwheat honey? Yes, ma'am. From where? The old Hartwell apiary. East of town. The woman's expression changed. Tom Hartwell's operation? I thought those hives were abandoned. They were. I'm bringing them back. The woman unscrewed the lid, smelled it, closed her eyes. My grandmother used buckwheat honey. You couldn't find it anywhere. She looked at the price. I'll take 4 jars. She paid cash, $180. Lily's hands shook as she made change. By 8 a.m., 7 jars were sold. By 8:30, 15. A line formed. People asked questions. Where were the bees? What did they forage? How was it produced? Lily answered quietly, honestly. Some customers walked away. Others bought multiple jars. At 9:15 a.m., she sold the last jar to a man who'd been waiting 20 minutes. He handed her $50 and waved off the change. Keep it. This is the real thing. Her table was empty. She'd grossed $1,710 in 2 hours and 15 minutes. The farmer's market director approached, lips thin, holding the jar that would become evidence of Lily's transgression against acceptable pricing. Lily stood her ground. My prices reflect the product. If customers are willing to pay, that's between me and them. The director's jaw tightened. You're creating an unfair marketplace dynamic. I'm creating a quality product. That's different. A voice interrupted. She's right. The woman who'd bought the first 4 jars stepped forward from the small crowd that had gathered. I'm in Morrison. I own Morrison's Kitchen downtown. This honey is restaurant grade, single source, and from endangered hives this young woman rescued. $45 is reasonable. The director looked between them, clearly outmaneuvered, and walked away without another word, and handed Lily a business card. Can you supply me? I'd take 20 pounds a month if you can manage it. Lily did math in her head. Yes, I can manage that. Good. Call me Monday. Over the next month, Lily worked the hives with quiet intensity. She sold at the farmer's market every Saturday, always selling out, always with a line. She supplied Morrison's Kitchen. A specialty food store in Fresno contacted her, then a store in Sacramento. By mid-August, her 5 hives were healthy, and she'd reinvested profits into 5 more colonies from a reputable breeder. She rented a small commercial space for extraction, bought used equipment, hired a part-time helper, a high school kid named Marcus who wanted to learn beekeeping. Revenue for August, $4,200. Her grandfather's journal sat on the workspace counter now, open to whatever section she needed. She'd read them all twice, was starting a 3rd time through. The neighbor's attitude shifted slowly, then suddenly. Constance appeared at the property line in early September. Lily, my goats got into something, poisonous plant, I think. Free or sick. Tom Hartwell used to tell me about plants. What was safe? Do you know anything? Lily walked the fence line with her, identified the culprit, tansy ragwort, and explained treatment. Call the vet, but get them away from that section. Thank you. Constance hesitated. I'm sorry I doubted you. It's okay. No, it's not. You did something hard. Something most people wouldn't try. Dale Mercer stopped by in late September with a question about pollination contracts. My almond bloom is February. I need bees. Frank Chen's prices went up. You interested? Lily quoted him her rate, lower than Frank's but fair. Dale hired her for 15 acres. By October, she had 3 pollination contracts, steady farmers market sales, and restaurant accounts in 4 cities. She'd moved from her car into a rented room in town. The student loan payments started coming, and she could cover them. But the real change came October 18th. Frank Chun, the honey producer who'd dismissed her in May, arrived at the apiary unannounced. He walked through the hives with his hands in his pockets, watching Lily work. "You're running 10 colonies now." "Yes, sir. And you're getting premium prices." "I'm getting fair prices for good product." He nodded slowly. "I was wrong about you. I thought you were naive. Turns out you understood something I didn't. Scarcity and quality matter more than volume." He paused. "I'm retiring next year. 70 years old. No kids interested in the business. I have 40 hives, established pollination contracts, equipment. Would you be interested in buying the operation?" Lily's mind raced. "I don't have that kind of capital. Seller financing. Small down payment. Pay me over 5 years. You take over the contracts, keep the reputation I built. I consult for the first year, teach you the commercial side." She thought about her grandfather, starting at 62 when everyone said he was too old. She thought about her $200 bid on abandoned hives. "Yes, I'm interested." They worked out terms over 3 meetings. Down payment, $5,000. Monthly payments for 60 months. She'd take possession January 1st, 2025. She signed the papers November 20th in Frank's kitchen while his wife served tea and homemade almond cookies. On December 15th, the farmer's market held its holiday market. Lily brought 60 jars, buckwheat honey, wildflower honey, a small batch of creamed honey she'd made following her grandfather's 1993 notes. She sold out in 90 minutes. Customers asked when she'd have more, and Morrison stopped by her table. "Lily, I'm catering a wedding next month. They want local honey as wedding favors. Can you do custom labels?" 200 jars. "Yes," Lily said, already calculating production schedules. "I can do that." That evening, back at the apiary, she walked the hives in the last light. The bees were tucked in for winter, clustered tight, surviving. She opened her grandfather's journal to his final entry, written 3 days before he died. 62 felt too old to start. 89 feels too young to stop. The bees taught me that age is nothing. Attention and respect are everything. If you're reading this, grandchild, remember, start where you are. The bees don't care about your circumstances. They care about your commitment. She closed the journal carefully and looked at her hives. 15 now, soon to be 55. In her bank account, $11,400. In her future, contracts, customers, growth. But more than that, she had what her grandfather had given her. Knowledge that worked, bees that thrived, and proof that $200 in wisdom could rebuild a life from nothing. The first stars appeared over the foothills. The air smelled like oak and earth and the faint, wild sweetness of honey. Somewhere in the hives, queens were laying the winter bees that would carry the colonies through to spring. Lily smiled, just a little, and went home to plan next year's expansion. The neighbors had stopped laughing. Now, they were asking for help.